Well, good morning. We're here at the Siskiyou County Museum in beautiful Yreka, California. It's a cold, clear, crisp fall afternoon, and I'm here today with Gail Jenner, and Gail is one of the volunteer docents at the museum. She is going to show us around the outdoor portion of the museum. They have the indoor portion behind us here, but we're now visiting the outdoor portion, and she's going to tell us a little bit about the history of this and what we're looking at. But before we get into that, Gail is a fourth generation, I think you said?
My husband is fourth generation. We have the fifth and sixth generation on our ranch.
So she's a rancher living in this area and volunteering her time here at the museum, but she is also an author. So I'm going to ask her, before we go too much further, to tell you a little bit about her books.
Okay.
And then we'll take a look and mosey our way through the museum and let her tell you what's going on there.
All right. Well, I've written about 12 historical books.
12?
4 of them are about the state of Jefferson
Okay.
and the movement that took place. Also, I've written a lot of history that relates to both the state of California and then also the West.
Okay.
This one is my newest, and it's what lies beneath California pioneer cemeteries and graveyards. And I visited over 120 cemeteries and locations. This one, and I brought this out because we also have the schoolhouse here. This is about 14 western states and one-room schoolhouses and school teachers. One of the school teachers I interviewed was actually 103 years old.
Wow.
And I believe she might have been in Oklahoma too.
Mm-hmm.
And then this one is one of the ones that I've done on the state of Jefferson. And people are always interested in the history behind that movement.
Absolutely.
I brought another book out because I think it's a significant addition to our gift shop, and this is about the Modocs, and it's written by Chiwa James, who descends from the original families, and she is not only a descendant, but she's a member of the Oklahoma tribe.
Oh, the Oklahoma
Modocs.
the ones connected with Captain Jack.
Yes, yes.
Okay, descendants of Captain Jack. Now, I think you also mentioned that the museum area here is part of the Shasta tribe, I think you
Yes,
said?
the land here was originally Shasta land, and there is the neighboring, the Karuk, that are also here, and then the Modocs to the east, and then to the south are the Wintun, and up north in Oregon, and we're about 34 miles from Oregon, are the Rogue River, and they are actually a branch of the Shasta. as well,
Okay,
or
okay.
Many of them are.
Well, they certainly have a beautiful piece of property.
Yes, yes.
So, Gail, why don't we begin the tour here and tell us what we're looking at?
Okay, this is the spring school, and it's the actual school that they brought to the museum, and it was actually in use from 1890 to 1949.
Oh, wow.
So it was
Okay.
used for quite a while.
Alrighty.
We loved this school because we do a lot of school programs and bring kids in from all over the county. And we have a wonderful volunteer docent who's done a lot of research, and she puts on a whole school day for the kids. The kids sit in
Oh, I
their
imagine they love that,
They
don't
do.
they?
They sit in
wow.
their desks and they do different activities. They write on their slates and they get to play historic games. So it's quite an event, and we've been opening it up more and more for
What a wonderful
activities.
way for the children to learn about the history of
And
their
they are
area.
impressed.
Yes,
They are very
I
impressed.
can imagine they are. And that's wonderful. So what do we have next over this way?
Well, next we have the blacksmith shop, and it's based on the Harmon and Harmon buggy and blacksmiths from Yreka. And inside we do keep the carriages, we keep wagons, we keep elements of different kinds of blacksmithing. And 2 weeks ago we had a family history day where we had a blacksmith who does a wonderful job with the kids, and he was outside with his forge and creating things that the kids just really enjoyed. We also had quilt making that day, and we had gold panning. We had musicians walking through, lots of different kinds of crafts. And next we have the church beyond the blacksmith shop. And the church is a replica of one of the historic churches that still
Why don't
exists.
we walk down this way?
And It's a wonderful little church. And then we have, this is a replica of Denny Bar, which was one of the original stores that sold materials to not only gold miners, and they had regular pack train that they would go over the Trinities and return, and some of those pack trains had 40 to 60 mules. And they also serviced the ranchers and people throughout the
Well, tell
area.
us about your connection to the Denny Bar here.
Well, Denny Bar now in Etna, one of the branches, there were 9 branches altogether, is now a historic, they've recreated the building, kept it as original as they could, but it's now a craft restaurant and distillery, and it's becoming quite a wonderful location. My daughter and her husband are co-owners with 2 of their best friends. So it's
in
brought
Etna,
a,
right?
yes.
Etna, California. So
And,
we've
it's-
eaten there before. It's really good, and we're going. In fact, we're going to plan on having dinner there tonight. So
Well, and they won quite a few awards for their distillery, for their
Brewery?
Roosevelt Rye, and then also there's, I think their gin and their 1 or 2 of their other craft spirits.
wonderful.
So there's also the Etna Brewery, which they also own, which is historic, and it's a recreation of the original Etna Brewery that survived until the Prohibition.
Well, I've had some of that Etna Brewery root beer,
Oh yes, it's
and
good.
it's really good. I can recommend it. I'm a root beer fan. So here we go. You want again? Tell us a little. Paul, can you scan up here to the sign on the front of the blacksmith shop? And what is the connection with Harmon and Herman?
They were buggy and blacksmith here in Yreka originally.
Okay, all right.
This is a recreation, but it was the name that they based it on. But they do have some wonderful original vehicles, buggies and carriages, and it's also kind of become a storehouse for things where we don't quite know where to put them yet.
It's amazing. It looks like they have some wagons in there. And is that a carriage?
It's a carriage.
A
We call
carriage?
it a doctor's carriage.
A doctor's carriage. Because that's when the doctors made house calls,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Oh, yes.
They traveled all over Siskiyou County. We had some pretty amazing doctors
That is-
historically here.
That is a little bit of history that here in the old West, I
Yes,
guess we could
yes.
call it that, couldn't we?
West.
And this area was a gold mining area originally, correct? Do they still find gold in the area?
Yeah, there's still some recreational mining going on, not a lot. But it fell on the heels of the Sierra Gold Rush.
Okay.
Most people think of the gold rush in the Sierras, but this came with as the miners moved north into Oregon and into this region, and actually a lot of gold came out of this area.
Well, that's amazing. We have visited the Sutter's Mill, the
Oh, yeah.
original gold site, and this is a long ways from that, folks. We're looking about 290 to 300 miles north of that. So you can see these miners, they got around in the 1800s, and
Yeah.
you're saying they found a lot of gold in this area.
Absolutely, they found a lot of gold.
So that's the reason they came up here, and a lot of them stayed and started families. And I think you said your husband's 4th generation, correct? Yeah. So that's a good story in itself, right there. Tell us about this schoolhouse over here.
Oh, this is the church.
Oh, the church.
The church. It's a recreation. On the placard, there's a little bit of history there about the church, and it still exists. It's up in down in Callahan, south
Okay.
of us, and there's still a congregation that meets on Sundays. It's very small.
Well, that's very neat.
It was originally built, as it says, in 1858, and the some of the original parts are in this church. It's really a sweet thing.
Well, you know, one of the things that I have learned about Western history is people do not realize what a rough and tumble time it was, especially when it was just the men out.
Yes.
And one of the ways that settled the Old West was when the wives and the children came out and they started schools and they started churches, and it began to come together as a community.
Right.
And so I've always found that fascinating that it's how the society came to be in the different areas of the old West towns.
Well, and one thing that I remember, one story was that one of the first women who came to this area, the men were so enchanted by her, they would come and just watch her hang laundry. They just wanted a peek at a woman.
See a woman, huh? Well, you can imagine that. That's another neat story there as well. But what a beautiful Catholic church here.
Yeah.
And this was built in 1850?
58.
1858. That is just amazing to me that that we're standing here looking at a building that has lasted this long.
Yeah.
And what a beautiful architecture behind it, and it's still serving the people here in this area.
Yeah.
That's what
The original, I mean the one in Callahan. Yes,
the one in
this is a
Callahan.
replica.
Yes. So let's continue to work our way around here. I believe we have a cabin back this way, right?
Yes, the Davis cabin. And it was also built in the 1850s, and the family lived there until 1870, and the cabin was then moved to the museum.
Okay.
And Charlotte, one of the descendants, she has also been one of the docents here at the museum as well.
Charlotte Davis.
Mm-hmm.
Let's walk our way.
Okay.
Back down.
They went into ranching, as did quite a few of the settlers who came out. A lot of them came out the Oregon Trail, and then they dipped down into this part of California via the Applegate and or the California Trail.
Applegate, Oregon
Yeah.
area. Okay. Now I notice we also have some of the old farming utensils here. Implements, I should say, not utensils. And this looks like what is this? Is something to be pulled behind a horse?
Yeah, let's see. I think this might be like a hay rake.
A hay rake. Okay.
I could be wrong. It could be a harrow, but and then we also have some logging equipment, and we do have big wheels over there, further over. Those are the big wheels that they used in the logging industry, and that cabin to the right of it was one of the original cabins that was built, or shack that was built along the railroad.
So in addition to ranching and farming and gold, they also were logging.
Yes,
back here.
this was a hugely popular logging area, and they did do a terrific amount of logging here. We still have some logging, but it's been diminished.
Yes, over the years, I understand. Yes. So tell us a little bit more about the Davis cabin here.
Well, it's pretty unique. It's original, and you can see the mortar between the logs, and these are all hand-hewn beams.
Yes.
And they certainly put a lot of work into it. She even had glass windows, and I don't know if originally they had glass for their windows. They might have had some other kind of
translucent material or something?
Yeah.
But eventually they did add glass.
I think so.
Which is pretty unique, I think, at that time.
But the family lived here, or members of the family lived here.
Now this area it looks like it's the kitchen as well as the dining area, and perhaps what we'd even call the living room, correct? So
Yeah.
it's all built into one area here. We're going to show you in a few minutes that the bedroom had a separate entrance and is next door here. But I'd like you to notice the craftsmanship in building this cabin. As Gail mentioned, the mortar between the boards, which would certainly help with the heating of the room.
And if you look closely on the beams and also the logs that create the structure, those are all hand-hewn and done with axe. The ones up top, of course, the ceiling is done with a mill, some kind of sawmill.
What a labor of love. And it was, just to take the time to fit this all together, the labor that went into to preparing the boards, the mortar. I wonder, Gail, how long it took to build this cabin. Do you know?
I don't know.
Okay. but it was built in constructed in 1856 and occupied until 1870.
Correct.
But I imagine it probably took him, and it was probably something that he continued building on even after he moved into it.
Oh, I
I'm sure,
imagine.
to improve
And then
it.
they
So-
shifted to ranching.
Now, do you have
and,
any idea what this is?
An old stove.
Is that an old stove?
Yeah, that's
there?
a wood stove. We have one kind of like that, only it's not quite that rusted. But there would have been the circular, you could cook on this stove, and there's the pipe.
Well, that shows what I know, because I actually thought this was a safe. But he would keep his gold in. But anyway, why don't you tell us about the bedroom here?
Well, obviously this is where they slept, and the quilt is kind of, I don't know if this is an original quilt from the family or not. We do have a lot of quilts here at the museum. And there's another wood stove here to the left, a little
yes.
fancier.
The wood stove was pretty popular, wasn't it? 'Cause
Oh, yeah.
they cooked on them as well as heated with them.
We still heat with a wood stove.
Do you? Yes, yes. I've noticed that in the area around. See the smoke coming out of the chimneys, so you got the little smell of the wood burning. So yeah, it's very, very pleasant.
Yeah, that's a big activity here is wood cutting in the fall.
Alrighty, well, we're going to back out here, and so I think we'll just complete our journey right here. I want to encourage you again to visit the Siskiyou County Museum. It's in Yreka, California. It's about 30 miles south of the Oregon border, and it's just a beautiful town. Come visit it. Gail's here. Pick up some of her books, and also take a tour of both the inside and the outside part of the museum. Plan on spending a few hours here. They have a lot to offer.
Thank you.